Good afternoon. Welcome to the Offshoot. I am the host, Lee Sean Nelson. I'm very, very excited to have this conversation today. This is a conversation that I think that most people will find very, very intriguing and interesting. As you know, we are very, very close to ending the 2024 political season with the race for president and the voting that takes place, or the final voting on November 2nd. November 5th. So one thing that's been in the news quite a bit, particularly over the last 3 weeks, is where Black men are when it comes to this political season. Are they voting for Donald Trump, the former president of the United States of America, or are they voting for Kamala Harris, the current vice president of the United States of America? So on the panel today, we have three other men, various generations, who are here to talk about Black men in politics, where we are, and why some are voting this way, voting that way, and what's the real story? What the mainstream media isn't telling you about Black men, politics, and this election season. So we get started by introducing the gentleman on this podcast today. So first is Justin, tell everyone who you are. And for context, tell them how old you are.
Okay, yeah. My name's Justin Matherson. I am from, I live in Virginia currently. I am an entrepreneur. I am 40 years old. I'm a father. And I don't know what else I should say about me, but that's who I am. Yeah.
Okay. And Randall?
Well, I reside in Washington, D.C. I am 64 years old, and I basically lifelong Democrat, and I support the ticket and the person, and I think that I am trying to be realistic about it. I mean, the only person I was really excited for to vote for was Obama, and I'm a little excited for Harris in a sense.
Okay, and we have a final guest on the panel today, and that's Jared.
Hey, that's Gerard Matheson, 61 years old, independent, and happy to be here. Like I said, I just got invited to this last minute, so not a lot of notes and prep, but I'll do my best to contribute.
I'm very, very happy to have you, even though it was a last minute thing. So thank you for your time. I humbly accept that you're here. So let's get right into this. Okay, let's start with you, Justin. What is being missed from the media about Black men and the current political climate that we're in right now, especially given that the election is literally 2 days away?
I think the media is kind of I think there's more of kind of like their knee-jerk reaction is they're in shock to hear that so many men, let's be honest, so many Black men are voting for Trump. I think that it's shock, and I think they're trying to find a reason. I don't watch a lot of news, to be honest with you, but I do know in my network, and I do know based on the reaction that I've had when I speak to Kamala Harris supporters, I think it's interesting, and I think because of the reaction, a lot of other men are also pretending or just saying that they want or support Trump, but they probably don't. As far as what the media is missing, I think the media has always missed what we want and who we are. I think we've always been underrepresented, and we continue to be underrepresented because we don't make up a part of who actually controls the media.
Yeah, so let me ask you this. They always refer to young men. Okay, you're a young man yourself. You're a young father. Okay, are they getting something wrong when they are always harping about young men in particular, particularly young Black men?
Well, I think, again, they try to put us all in one box, right? So, but I think it's more so that I don't think it's young Black men. I think there's different socioeconomic divisions that separate all men, regardless of your race. So I think we spoke about this before. A rich Black man has a lot more in common with a rich white man than a rich white man has with a poor white man. So I think a lot of times we're missing it by focusing on the color, and we're not looking at socioeconomically where we stand and if that's changing. And then also there's a possibility of it changing in the future.
Yeah.
So as far as me being a young black man and me representing young black men, I can tell you right now, I don't know many men in my network that are voting for Kamala Harris. I don't know many black men.
Yeah.
And mainly because of what we know. Now, if what we know and what I say is wrong, then I'm wrong. But I know me and my background, I have 5 brothers. And based on my history, I mean, we grew up from Gerard's my father. He's been strict our whole life. We grew up in the military. We had to make our bed every morning. We had chores. We had to have good grades. We all went to college. And the fact that every single one of my brothers have been arrested. None of us are criminals. You know, my sisters haven't been arrested, but every single one of my brothers have been arrested. One on a DUI from walking from his car, getting out of an Uber. There's problems that we have here as black men that we don't hear being talked about ever. And I don't like the media trying to portray Donald Trump being a criminal and making that the reason that we can identify with him, because that's not it. But I think it's more so by looking at what I knew Kamala Harris did and why she did it. I just didn't understand, but I could identify with that because I've been in a courtroom and seen a black woman talking about me, for example, like I was just the worst guy in the world. And I look at her and she looks exactly like the women that I had to face that were telling me how bad of a guy I was. These black women. And I think that a lot of black men that I know, that's part of the reason why they don't support her. It just doesn't seem real. It doesn't seem genuine. It doesn't feel like nothing that she says feels like it almost feels like over rehearsed, and the emotion seems like it's planned, and that doesn't feel good. At least with Donald Trump, I don't think he's going to say something he doesn't mean, whether he likes me or not. I really do believe that the bullshit he says, he believes it. Does that make sense? I truly do believe it.
Yeah, and I want to dive deeper into that. Let's go to Randall. And Randall, what are your thoughts? What do you think the media is missing?
Right off the bat, I had to stand and let you see my Central Park 5 shirt, or the Exonerated 5, as you put up Donald Trump, who, was sued for housing discrimination. He put an ad out on these guys and said they ought to be executed. I don't know of any other thing that he's put an ad in the newspaper, which probably cost upwards of $50,000, and he still didn't accept the fact that these guys did not do. The thing is, you're an entrepreneur. Now, if Kamala was working for you and that was her job, would you want her to be competent at her job, as in doing it, as she was the prosecutor? Or, she would be excoriated for being incompetent if she didn't do her job well. And so some people are innocent that end up in front of the criminal justice system, yes. But I don't believe everybody. I don't necessarily resent her, because at the time in DC, the outrageous crime during the 80s and the 90s, and I was for the crime deal. I'm sorry, I was a dude selling drugs. I was a young man in the 90s. I was in my 30s. I wasn't selling drugs, and our neighborhoods were a mess. I've never experienced driving down the street until then, and people just start shooting. That's happened like a couple of times. And so during that time, and other incidents, it was people either dying of AIDS or the young men were being shot. And so I'm kind of like, I don't understand why people, if she was incompetent, she would, catch it for that. I just think that I don't resent her for doing her job. And believe me, I was younger. I tried things. I'm not perfect, but I just don't understand why. I just want to say this: why people don't think about the women that they love versus the women that they resent. And Trump has no good character.
But before we go too far into pitting Kamala Harris against Donald Trump, I really want to kind of start off with what the media is missing. Um, and because I know that will get very heated, but I do want to keep it civil still, because
I'm trying to miss you.
yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that, but you know,
Well, then, okay, Sean, let me tell you, as a father, right? As a father, let's say that. Let me start there because that's what's most important as with my identity. As a father, the media isn't reporting on fentanyl. Okay, this is in our schools right now. The media isn't reporting on the effect that's happening to young men with regard to because of the whole gender identity thing. The media is not talking about mental health. The media isn't talking about how suicide is at an all-time high. The media isn't talking about how more men in the United States commit suicide every year than men did when they came back from World War II. It's that these are all things that the media is not talking about. And I think that the politics is really a distraction. Really what's happening here and at home, we've got depression that's going crazy right now. We can call it mental health, you can call it depression. I think it's all tied. And I think I don't know the answer, but I do know that I don't hear about any of this stuff happening. You got teachers on OnlyFans. You got teachers having sex with students. This is like every week I hear of something new. You've got, they keep talking about fund or defund the police. They need to fund the teachers. If the teachers made money, they wouldn't have to do OnlyFans. If crime is tied to kids dropping out of school, then why don't we make the schools more interesting so they don't drop out and create more crimes? Like, these are all things that the media, they don't talk about. I think they're constantly looking for something for us to be distracted on. I think it's a good idea that you're doing this because you can actually go against that. But I think those are all things that matter, like, to me at home. I got to deal with my daughter going to school with girls in tube tops and the butt cracks hanging out. And then my son, how am I supposed to keep him focused with the same thing? He's 13 years old. But the teachers can't say anything because if you don't tell the boys you can't tell it to the girls now because of equity. They have to be equally whatever. So these are things to me that matter.
Yeah, and I do want to go there because I do believe that what's missing is stories about Black men, their lives, and their families. They only want to portray the negative as opposed to the plethora of Black men who are taking care of their kids, who are taking care of their careers, et cetera, and so forth. But before we get there, we haven't heard from Gerard as of yet. So, Gerard, what do you believe is missing?
Perspective. We're talking about what the media is missing and what the media isn't getting right about Black men. The media has never gotten Black men right. I'm 61 years old. And as a kid, I remember watching, the only people I saw on TV that looked like me were in handcuffs or mugshots. Those who are old enough to remember the Cosby Show, regardless of what you think of Bill Cosby today, when that show came out, it was probably the most powerful example of what Black love, positivity could be. And America revolted. I got more objectionable comments. I heard more objectionable comments from Black people than white people over that show. Folks were like, that ain't real. That can't be. It's exactly, it absolutely can be. And it is. It does exist. There are couples like that in America. Barack and Michelle were magnificent, but they weren't the first powerful Black couple in America. If we're waiting for the media to tell us what we should be and think, and we're done. Okay, we're done. I don't listen to the media's portrayal of Black men because the media has a job. It's to make money. It's not a news organization. It's a media organization. Their goal is to make money. They're going to report whatever gets ratings because they have to stay relevant to get sponsors so that the sponsors pay for time on the air. So if you're going there for detail, forget it. When I grew up, if you wanted to know what was going on, you had to go to the library to find out facts. You had to read newspapers. You had to research, call people. There was no smartphone. And I think we had better sources of information than you do today because your phone is loaded with crap. There's a lot of people. I've heard people talk about Black men against Kamala because she was a prosecutor. I've been inside of jail. A lot of people there belong there. Let's not play games and mince words. Everybody in jail is an innocent victim of the system. I grew up in Brooklyn, New York in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. And there are a lot of criminals in jail who belong in jail. And I don't want them in my damn backyard. So I don't care what color the prosecutor is. If you did the crime, do your time. Don't whine. Now, are there innocent people locked up? Absolutely. Does the system bias against us? Absolutely. But I'll be damned if I sit here and vote against a woman who did her job and locked up criminals, and not all the people she prosecuted were black. That's another myth that they're feeding you. She went against drug cartels, organized crime, corporate crime, etc. So there's a lot more to her job than just locking up black men. But that said, that was her job, and somebody has to do it. And by the way, you go to Africa, all the prosecutors are black. What are you going to do there? Elect nobody? That logic, it just flaws me. As far as Donald Trump, I don't know any human being walking on this earth who's done anything that can outdo this guy. He gropes women's body parts. He stacked the Supreme Court. He denied elections. He tries to overthrow the government. I mean, I don't know how many things that he literally said I could shoot somebody in the middle of Fifth Avenue and get away with it. And guess what? Now he's got the Supreme Court backing him up. God knows what he can do in office as president, because they have just declared anything he does in official capacity is non-prosecutorial. So he can do whatever he wants when he gets in this time. And oh, by the way, he's not going to surround himself with the people who slowed him down last time and tried to stop him. He's got a litany of yes men. J.D. Vance is a fine example. Vance talked about how corrupt and inept he was. And then he said, oh, I could be your VP, and literally went 180 degrees and is kissing the ring. This is the kind of people you're going to get. And I think the media plays a role in pumping up this narrative about black men against Kamala, because it gets us focused on each other as opposed to him and what he's done. I was the age of the Central Park Five, and I lived in New York when that happened. And they used to call it wilding. Guys would go to the city, run the streets, do little petty crimes and things of that nature. Murder wasn't part of wilding to my remember. It was just robbery. And I knew guys who went wilding. But none of them were murderers. And none of them were out there doing the things that he accused these young men of. And with no evidence, they locked these men up for decades. Okay? So if you want to talk about incorrectly prosecuting a black man, Trump led the campaign for these five brothers. And then when they got out, he still hasn't had the decency to say I was wrong or I apologize. He still thinks they should have been executed. That's what he called for back then. But you're going to be mad. People are mad because Kamala did her job in court and prosecuted a case against criminals, some of which who were black. Think about what we're saying, brothers. I don't understand. I had a brother tell me the other day he can't vote for Kamala because she's a woman. I said, but you told me you don't like the vote at all. Now, did you vote for Hillary? No. Did you vote against Hillary? No. But you're going to vote against Kamala. That blew my mind. This brother is the Nation of Islam, he told me. We don't believe this. I said, man, I don't think, first of all, let me just disclaimer, I don't believe he represents the nation. But he said he was in the nation and he can't vote for a woman in power. But I reminded him, I said, didn't you tell me the nation doesn't vote in these things? Yes. So instead of being neutral, you're going to vote against the black woman where you didn't.
He's not with the nation. Yeah, but he's not with the nation.
Well, right. But my point is, this is the messaging that he's putting out. And if you're not intelligent enough to pay attention to what he's saying, you miss the illogic of it all. Why would the nation vote against one of his own when that's what they're all about, promoting black people? But you're going to vote against the black woman, not the white woman, but you're not. It didn't make any damn sense. Half the arguments I'm hearing about why black men don't vote for Kamala aren't logical. Okay. She was a prosecutor. Every prosecutor in most African countries are black. Did that mean they can never run for office? You got to have a prosecutor and you got to have a defense attorney. And the people who do their job will win. The system is not perfect, but there's a lot. Look, if it don't make sense, just my recommendation, don't listen to it. Now, we're 2 days before the election, so this is really not going to do a lot of good to anybody. But I will say going forward, when people speak in illogical terms without reasons, facts, do some homework. Look into it, but don't sit here expecting the media to represent us, because we don't even represent us. I can't speak for a 22-year-old out of Baltimore whose mother's unemployed and his father's gone. I can't relate because I'm 50, 60 years old and I'm on a whole nother place in life. I can't tell you what that brother's thinking, but I will talk to him. I will sit down and reason with him. But I'd be damned if somebody could tell me we think alike. We're in two different parts of the world, two different scales, economically, age, culture, background, education. We're different places. So we're not a homogenized group of people who all are, we're not the Borg. We all have different opinions that make us who we are. So I don't go by what the media tells me I think. That's it.
So the media, I agree. So the media is, I do believe, trying to paint a narrative. The media, and I was in the media for 10 years, has an objective, and it's an organization like most businesses that survive by making money, and the media needs chaos in order to survive. You know, we all know the cliche: if it bleeds, it leads. That hasn't changed. But I feel like something is still amiss. I still feel like there are some Black men in every generation who are voting for Donald Trump for reasons, like you said, that may not be rational. But I'm looking for those who might have some rational reasons for voting for him.
I can tell you good reasons to vote for Donald Trump. Oh, yeah, I can absolutely give you some good reasons. If you make a certain amount of money, okay, and you're looking at the difference of $30,000 or $300,000 in income tax, you might want to vote for Trump if it cuts your taxes by 90%. Oh, yeah.
Most Black men, particularly most young.
No. There are Black millionaires and billionaires, okay? There are a lot of them. And there are a lot of people who invest in entities that maybe I don't make that much, but where my stock is will benefit that much, which will indirectly hit me. There's a lot of people who are fiscally looking at Trump for benefits. The Democratic Party, I'm an independent. And the reason I am is because the Democratic Party lost my confidence. Okay, I grew up in the Democratic household, but over the years, I watched them bumble and stumble and do stupid stuff. They don't have the courage or the backbone to speak up against what's right and what's wrong. They just kind of, we're not them. That's not an argument.
They're weak.
It's not an argument. I'm not.
They're very weak. I agree.
Yeah, I'm better than them. No, don't tell me why you're better than them. Tell me why you're good.
51 years. They did a recent survey that showed the Democratic Party over the last 50 years, I think it's either created more jobs or the economy, maybe it was the economy, did better under the Democrats than it did under the Republicans. And that's, for, I guess, for a majority of people. And it only did well 1 year under the Republicans when they looked over the who either created more jobs or the economy was better. So but you're talking about the appeal of the tax cut is still, you're talking about a minority of people, a small minority. Only 20% of either households or people in general make over $100,000 in the United States.
But Randall, that's my point.
And so
the media is
group, that's his constituency for that.
I'm not disagreeing with you, brother. The media is telling you, and people aren't listening to what they're saying. They're saying more Black men are voting for Trump than ever before. Okay, first of all, he's only run 3 times. All right, so let's stop acting like he's been running for 50 years. But 2% more is more. Okay, and if he had 8% of the Black male population vote for him last year, now it's 10%. He has more, but they're not giving you what people don't understand is it's only 10%. 90% of us are voting the other way. So why the uproar? Because it sells papers. It gets clicks on blogs. It gets people to look at websites. It gets people to tune in the news. They don't say.
I also think if they can pull,
I want to go with that. Yeah.
If they can pull numbers, small numbers from every group, cumulatively that might have an effect that would elect Trump. And
it could.
Yeah.
But the point I'm trying to make is you got to pay attention to what the media is saying and not saying. Okay, they're saying that Kamala has lost the black vote. That's not true. A majority of black men are voting for her, but because a few more than last time are voting for Trump, they're generating a problem that doesn't exist with the implications that large amounts of black men are going to the other side, and it's not true. And Trump has his couple of stand-in brothers that he pays to stand behind him at concerts with hats and shirts. And, you know, these guys make money, and I don't even know if they're voting for him. They're probably just taking a check. But this is what the media plays on. And then they get us excited about what's going on, my brothers? Another divisive tactic. Why are you not voting for Harris? I don't think most black men are voting for Trump. I think of the voting population, an overwhelming majority of brothers are probably going to vote for Harris. Now, some going to vote for Trump, yeah, but it's not the end of the world. Okay, we're not jumping on. We're not going to be the reason she loses the election. I'll put it that way. All right. There are a lot of people who are on board because they want to protect democracy. I don't agree with everything she says. I don't agree with every policy she has. I definitely didn't agree with a lot of things Joe Biden did and said. But I'll put it this way. I wish they had a more positive message about why you should vote for them as opposed to not vote for him. But in all honesty, not voting for him is a pretty damn good argument, considering who he is and what he's planning to do. And if you have to look at Project 2025, you better wake up. That's the script.
Hey,
I don't care what they say.
People living in PG County, people don't realize Trump talked about PG County about 2 or 3 times. Why? Because a lot of, I know, Sean, I'm going to say it real quick, a lot of black folks live in PG County that are doing well, and that's a target for him. But so,
Randy, sorry, Randy, but just to be clear, PG County is actually Prince George's County in Maryland, which is a suburb of Washington, D.C.
Thank you for clarifying that. Right. And my point was, that's not, so that's why he wants to remake the government on the one hand, but this also, he wants a government. I know people that work in the government, and they have to be, they have to have a lot of integrity, because you have a lot of people that want to sidestep rules and so forth and so on, and those people have to stand up to them. And if Trump removes those kind of people, it's not, sometimes people don't realize, it's not the laws they pass, it's how the laws are implemented. And if you don't have people that will stand up and do the right thing, we can end up in a very bad, worse situation. I don't want to say very bad and sound like Trump, but we can end up in a bad situation where a lot of things are carved back. They're trying to get rid of voting rights. What other vestiges of affirmative action is left? A whole lot of things that have helped create some economic benefit to black people, like contracts. Some of these minority contracts, some people didn't have an end route. I mean, I worked at a firm that they made sure they had black people in order to get some of those contracts, because otherwise they probably would not have hired black people if it wasn't stipulated in the rules to get the contract.
Right. And as soon as that law changes, those folks are out of work. They're all out of work.
Justin, I want to go back to something that Justin said earlier, because I do think that, you're right. I think that black men would not be the group, if I can say that would cause Kamala Harris to either win or lose the election. I think it's going to be white women, because over and over again, they've proven to be out in public saying they're progressive and want this, but behind closed doors, they end up going the other direction. Yeah. But the media, which is why I call this podcast the offshoot, isn't saying a lot of things that you already pointed out. And Justin named some things, he stated some things that sound rational as to why that very small group of black men might be supporting Donald Trump. Okay. And my thing though is, and what I tell people is, I'm not that worried about Donald Trump because I know he's going to lose, but I'm not that worried about him at all or the MAGA movement. What I'm more concerned about and want us to pay more attention to is these young men who, to Justin's point, have some grievances that not have been heard. I think they're the ones we're going to have to actually listen to, because they are going to form a collective, if you will. And it's going to be a collective of young white men, young black men, young Latino men, maybe a few Asian, I think more probably Southeast Asian than East Asian. But I do feel like that this new group will form, and it will consist of young men across various ethnicities and demographics. Okay, and they're going to want to address their grievances. And I believe that if we don't start engaging with them, bringing them into the fold, let me just backtrack. One or two, or some of them might end up being that one individual who's going to cause some harm in their given community. And I want to know why, I want to know more about these grievances. And because even though it is a minority that's going to vote for Trump, I want to understand why. Because they're not rich. They don't have six-figure salaries. Okay. Some of them, and some of them don't even have that college degree.
I think the question you're asking is why do you think that so many men are supporting Trump? Is that what you're saying? When they don't share the same commonalities?
Yes. But more specifically, men of color. And I agree with your dad that it's a smaller number than what the media is making it out to be. The media makes it sound like 50% of black men are voting for Donald Trump. I don't think that's the case. So I'm not worried about that, but I'm worried and concerned about that 2% or that 5% that for some reason feel the need to go down a path and support an individual who, like your dad said and Randall said, who is clearly misogynistic, who clearly has called for the death of 4 young black men and 1 Latino man for a crime they did not commit, who clearly has failed when it comes to business, because he's filed bankruptcy more times than anyone than I can think of who's supposedly, quote, is a billionaire, end quote. I question that. And I do think you were right, Justin, we said earlier about, I don't know about now, but definitely 4 years ago, the way Trump spoke, which was a little bit more articulate, but it's definitely not articulate now. Something was resonating. And maybe it's those grievances you talked about. Is it or is it not?
Well, I think this is how I look at it, okay? Let's say you live in a building. Let's just say you live in a building and across the street there's another building, right? And this building's where you grow up, it's where all your family and friends live. And the building across the street is also a building they're just a building. Well, they start throwing rocks at your building. Then you throw rocks at their building. Then they get guns and they start shooting. You start shooting. Now they have rockets. Now they have missiles. Now they have a nuclear bomb, right? I think more so it's about leadership. When I looked at Donald Trump from the beginning, right? So we're talking about right now, but let's talk about the timeline and how it got here. What I saw him do to Jeb Bush, McCain, John McCain, George Bush, I saw him single-handedly step on a stage with 10 other Republicans and destroy them. One by one, by one, by one, by one. He knocked all of them off. Then he got to Hillary and knocked her off, okay? And when I saw him do that, what I saw was strength. I saw someone telling the truth. He was beating them up with their own truth, because a whole time we've been looking at a bunch of puppets lie to us. And they're such liars, they don't even talk to each other about their lies. They just constantly lie. And what he did was he jumped on it and he just beat them down with it. Now, has he done bad things? Yeah, good people do bad things. Bad people do good things, right? But I think for me, I look at, okay, if I'm going to be in this building and there's going to be another building over here, who do I want my leader to be? I don't care if he's a womanizer. That's not, I want someone who's going to be strong, who's going to be consistent, who's going to be clear, and who's going to have a vision. I don't want somebody who's this way today and that way the next day. I just don't want that. So
All
I
right,
think
wait, I got to jump in. I got to jump in.
hold on. So what I'm saying is, from my perspective, from me, from me, if we're just now seeing him come through that, I think that's what the younger guys are seeing. Maybe that's what they're seeing.
So you don't care if he's a womanizer and walks up and grabs women by their private parts, because here's what you're not thinking. He does that. He's 78 years old. He's not an issue for me. But the people who follow him now think that's cool. And you don't care until somebody grabs your daughter by her private parts, or your girl by her private parts, or calls them by their name because the president says it's okay. Or I'm going to do what I want to your daughter, and I don't, whether she likes it or not, because that's what the president does. And it's okay. Racism is on the rise in this country since he took office. Why? Because he says it's okay. He's got dog whistles he blows that bring up all types of hate crimes because he says it's okay. He attacked the Capitol, and the same people defending him today on January 7th were in Congress calling for his resignation and prosecution. And then when they realized, oh crap, he's retained power, never mind, let's go line up and kiss the ring and shut up because I got to protect my political career.
This is all BS. When you look at when you go to the Capitol, if you go to the Capitol, you look at the Capitol, right across the street is headquarters for what? What's right across the street?
What does it matter? Did the Capitol get attacked to stop the vote? Yes. Did the person leading it, was he the acting president? Yes. If that's okay with your generation, if that's what you guys think is tolerable because he's a straight shooter, you're insane. I'm not going to say that's up to you. This is not straight shooter. This guy lies about everything. He lies constantly. The dogs are being eaten by immigrants. The billions of dollars, millions of criminals are coming across the border. The lies he tells out. They can't even keep up with it on fact check anymore. But you guys, you young folks are telling me, I don't care about that. I just like that he's bold speaking. So a bold speaker who's a terrorist or a fascist, you prefer that to a diplomat? If that's where we're going, I got enough money. I can leave the country. I'm good. But I tell you what, I feel for my grandchildren.
Well, I'm trying to answer the question. I'm not saying that's what I believe. I'm trying to answer the question. Go ahead.
You're trying to get in the head of young guys.
Give me a second, because I want to go back to something that Justin said, and again, I know Justin says you're trying to answer the question and not saying what you believe. Yeah. And that's why I'm grateful to have you here, because I think you're more connected than I am with young people, which is why I want this perspective. So you mentioned earlier that during the GOP primary, Trump destroyed his opponents because he was a strong man. He shut them all down, and he was telling the truth. But what did he say about Bush, or Lord forbid, Ted Cruz or Marco Rubio that was truthful? Because from what I remember, he said little hands when it came to Marco Rubio, when it came to George Bush. So, but that's my point. My point is, how is that relevant to how someone creates legislation that's supposed to better their community? So is that is that what young men see as being truthful by telling someone that they have small hands, or
their father was involved in the assassination of Kennedy, or their great grandfather, their wife is ugly? Yeah, a lot of those politicians shut up when he threw insults, because that's not how the system works. They weren't prepared for the bully to come in the room and lie on national TV without any regard for the truth. They were stumped. Okay. And I'll be honest. Yeah, he was a big man. He was like the NBA player in a kindergarten class. Nobody was prepared for what he did. He was shock and awe to the political system. And quote unquote, regular people thought it was hilarious until he took office and saw what he did. Thank God the people in place were there to stop him from some of the things he tried. But This time, we have no excuse. We know what's possible. So if he's elected again, when it changes and when it comes, I'm gonna look at everybody and say, I don't want to hear anything. He told you what he's going to do. He showed you the last time. He set himself up this time to be more successful than before with some of the things that are going. Civil rights gone, electoral right. As he said himself, vote me in. This will be your last election. The man wants to do away with elections. He doesn't plan to ever come out of office. So if that bravado is appealing to young men, go. Let's play gladiator. See what we get.
I think what might be appealing is that he comes off in some kind of macho way.
Yeah.
I think that's believe me, I take him as a joke. To me, he's a pampered rich guy. He's never worked for anything. His father gave him all the money he had. He would not get a job in another company and he wasn't a real CEO. So the guy was a complete fraud. But I think part of what we're experiencing, young people, it's called a halo effect. I think because people have money, we have a tendency to give them more credit than they are due. When you look at character, which maybe that appeals to some young people, he doesn't have enough character to be the kind of person I look up to, like the person you would be when nobody else is around to see you being honest and decent then. Or you're a person, entrepreneur. I think you're in construction. I remember I saw you on the video. He's cheated countless numbers of contractors out of money after cutting deals with them. I mean, the man has no character. He has no substance. He's very malleable. That's why when he, confronts world leaders, or he did something like Jerusalem. Jerusalem. Hold up. He moved Jerusalem moved the U.S. embassy to Jerusalem, took away one of the main levers that the U.S. had to keep Israel and Netanyahu at bay. He underfunded or tried to take the funds from Ukraine. That's the kind of thing that emboldened Putin to attack Ukraine, because he was taking away their ability to have weapons. And he as much said he would, on the first day, turn the country over to Putin. The man has no substance. He doesn't have the mental capacity to have substance.
Justin, you're about to say something?
All right, I didn't go to HBCU, but from what I do remember him signing a bill to permanently release $250 million to HBCUs every year. They went to him for like 10 million. He said, that's not going to do anything. You're going to need more every year. So let's permanently put something into effect. I don't understand how you could just.
I think if you look it up, I don't think they got that. I think if you look it up, it may be something.
That's a great headline.
But he said a lot. I don't think they've gotten that much.
Just here's what I'm going to say. I'm going to say two other things that I know that kind of shocked me. Nelson Mandela, when he got out of jail, was trying to come to America. He had 80 people. Trump chartered a 757 or something like that for his whole family to come, held them up, and then sent them back. Trump did that. He doesn't talk about it, but that's what he did. The other thing he did was Jesse Jackson, who I don't support. He funded his whole campaign. So I don't know that everything he does is good or everything that he does is bad. But tell me something that Kamala has done that's good and why I should support her.
She led a lawsuit. I think it was against Countrywide and other people who did the mortgages.
Yep.
Yeah, and she won that as a settlement for people who had been done wrong. She did that in conjunction with, I think, the CFP. I can't remember the name of it, but it's the Consumer Protection Agency. And she came off as a leader. Now, here's the odd thing. He's a guy.
So wait. So
he's a guy that becomes president with no background to be president. She has a much deeper background of public service. He has no public service. He's only served himself, and I'm not saying that because that's the new slogan. So I couldn't vote for a guy that's never done that.
But the way I look at it, the way things have been doesn't work. You can't keep doing stuff the same way. Let me tell you something. I'm 40 years old. I've been an entrepreneur for 15 years. Do you know how many people I know that can get a loan from a bank? Do you know how many people I know that can get a loan?
Trump can't get a loan from any banks in America, and he's funded by foreign entities. His banking is funded. Do you know when the Constitution was passed, you could not be the president or a senator if you had any debt, because they were concerned about other people having influence on you, as well as foreign government.
But you're going away from what I just asked.
What? He can't get a loan.
The point I'm trying to make is you're not. You're missing the point. The point I'm trying to make is you can't keep doing things the same way. It doesn't work. It's not working for us.
All right. So again, Justin, I didn't do my homework, so I'm not prepared to spout off a bunch of facts. But I do recall his economic plan has not been explained yet. He's not defended nor explained his economic plan outside of what's in 2025. I know Kamala Harris has laid out things she's trying to do. She wants to give a child care tax for young couples. She wants to give money to people for small business owners to get off their feet and get started in small business.
Why hasn't she done it?
Son, she is not that's the other thing. That argument cracks me up. You give me 5 major pieces of legislation passed by any vice president in the history of this country, and I'll give you $100. Vice presidents don't make laws. They don't pass policy. They support the president. No vice president is going to stand up worth a damn and challenge the president in public. So she was not the president.
So you voted for Biden?
Did I vote for Biden?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did. I did. And but he's not running right now. My point is, no president is, and oh, by the way, if you want to judge the last 4 years against the 4 years before, man, you better sit down, because I'm not going to read your headlines. I'm going to give you facts. I'm not ready to have that debate right now, but I will tell you this: stock market's up. The economy is good. I don't know why nobody seems to be doing their homework other than what the media is telling them. Jobs for blacks at an all-time, unemployment for blacks at an all-time low. Unemployment, 4%. The country's in a great spot. Okay. Yes, some people, and I get it, Justin, your dynamic, your age group is struggling because there are things in place that are, I understand that. I'm not debating with you.
You can't get a car. You can't do it.
I
can't even buy groceries. Can't
but
get gas.
My point is, this guy that y'all are jumping behind is not going to fix that, man. It's only going to get worse. The import tax is going to make everything cost more. When we hit the recession, you think you're going to get a loan from the bank and it's in a recession? No, that's not going to happen. Economic experts have looked at his plan, what he proposed, not even a plan, just some of the ideas he's bouncing around and the things that are in the 2025 plan. We're headed towards way worse than we are now. The country is on the come up. Unemployment's going down. Stock market's going up. Money.
On what you're saying, could I build on what you're saying?
Please,
which is the main thing that he wants to implement. Do you know that 92% of the tariffs that he got from China during his administration had to go to pay to subsidize farmers because they were losing money, that he had messed the trade up, and the farmers weren't able to be successful. The other thing is, we went from tariffs in the in the early 1900s to the income tax. I think it was 1913 or 17, because tariffs was undermining our economy. Then prior to that, we only did income tax when there was war. So we already know, he doesn't even know history. We already know why tariffs don't work because we moved away from them because it's passed on to the consumer. It was undercutting our economy back then. So we already, so what he's saying is actually factual, is what people are telling you, warning you about, it's actually already happened. So, and that is the main source of revenue he's talking about to fund the country. It didn't work then, and it won't work now.
I have another question. Justin, do you think that a lot of young men are angry?
I think that a lot of young men are angry because it's twice as hard to get half as much done. If a man wants to go on a date nowadays, a young boy, he can't just go to college, get out, get a job, and afford to support a woman and a family like he wants to do. He's bashed for being a man. You know, the whole male dominance, hyper aggressive. Being a man nowadays is looked bad upon. Okay, first of all. Second of all, he doesn't have the opportunity that we used to. And then third, it's almost like the support that has come for women has, in a way, the backlash, like the unintended consequence of supporting women has, in a way, it feels like it's hurt us, right? So if you go into the government, you're going to see 80% of the government is women. That's the highest and biggest employer of the country, right? So if I'm a man,
yeah,
as a young man, it's hard to compete. It almost feels like we're competing with our women.
Well, that's what literally. I want to go with you. That's the question I wanted to ask. Are young men envious of women?
It's almost like jealous and insecure, and almost like you can't win.
Hey, can I jump in? Just absolutely. A comment. I don't agree with the term angry. I would say frustrated, because what I think they expected to happen isn't happening, and it's like, what the heck's going on? They can't figure out the equation. I did everything I was told to do growing up, and now it's not working, and I don't understand why. And nobody seems to be able to explain it to me. Meanwhile, I'm looking across, and
young women have figured it out. Young women. I know young women between their 20s.
Wait, let him finish, Sean. Let him finish.
Okay, but Sean, I will say this. Okay.
Oh, Dad, finish where you were going with meanwhile.
Right. So you got these young men who are like, I did everything right, and it's not working out. I had a conversation with a white colleague of mine at work one day, and he was talking about affirmative action and all the programs put in place for black people that just weren't right. And I said, what's wrong with them? Well, why can't you guys pull yourself up by your bootstraps and do this? I said, listen, man, we didn't even have boots. Okay. You took everything. We had nothing to start with. Okay. The slaves were released and promised that they would have an opportunity, and it never manifests. Programs have been put in place. Institutional racism has been established. Jim Crow came along. We've got hundreds of years that we're behind. So affirmative action and other programs came into place. And for the first time, we're starting to get a little bit of traction, and things are happening. And he goes, yeah, but I said, look at where we are. We're both in the same job. We're doing okay. I see the glasses half full. You see the glasses half empty. He goes, yeah, because you got to think about how I got the glass. See, as a young man, he was told all opportunities are yours. And as a young man, I was told no opportunities are yours. You're going to have to figure it out on your own. Now it's kind of, we have opportunities. So the bottom line is, yes, some of the things you used to take for granted are now in our camp. And that's the reality of growth in America. That's the reality of integration. More black businesses mean there will probably be a fewer percentage of white businesses. More black opportunities might mean fewer white people are getting the same opportunities because we're not in the same spot.
No, the reason why black men are frustrated is because while they're doing all the right things, they see the women that they're dating flying up. They're like, how the hell?
But wait, son, you're making my point. You're making my point. For hundreds of years, black women weren't given any opportunities. They were secretaries, admins, assistant to the assistant, sit in the back and listen and take notes because, you know, if they got to have that first rate of gender or sexism was way stronger than racism when it came to business. Nobody wanted to listen to a woman in lead. I had a guy say he can't vote for Kamala because she's a woman. Sexism is very powerful. Okay. That started to turn the corner prior to Me Too movement. And Black women have always been able to unite, collaborate, and make things happen for themselves. God bless them. I'm a champion. You got my applause. If you get the job over me, go get the job. Just when you get there, let's work together. But the point is, you got to remember, these opportunities were closed to all of us years and years ago. So if women are making the advance faster than us, you're not going to bait me with that hook. Look at what they're doing. Does that make you mad? No, it doesn't make me mad.
You don't see the play.
40 years ago, you wouldn't have took me or her.
You don't see the play.
I get mad about that, huh?
But you don't see the play in that, Dad. You don't see the long-term play in that. What
So
that does?
let me disagree with you because 40 years ago you were born. I was here, okay? And 40 years ago, neither of us could have got the shot. So I can't be mad if one of us is there. I am never going to sit here and turn my back on the Black woman because she's advancing faster than I am. I'm going to help lift her up because guess what? We didn't have the shot. And if we start fighting amongst each other, guess what? We lose.
No,
Okay,
that's not what I'm
since 1860.
Well, the thing I want to add is
That's not what I'm promoting. But okay.
So, all right, let me come back to one more thing, and I'm gonna shut up. You said young men are mad because the girl they're dating is advancing up the corporate ladder faster than them, and they can't keep up. Okay, I heard that. Does the girl you're dating look like you?
Yeah.
Okay, but when the girl for dozens of years, when the girl we were dating didn't look like us in advance, we were like, well, you know, she's white, so they're going to take care of her. And nobody was upset. But now that she looks like us, we supposed to be mad? I ain't buying that. I'm not buying that. I can't be mad. If my wife makes more money than me, God bless her, it's coming to our home. Okay? Well, I'm going to tell her, no, you take a pay cut because I got to have more money than you. What kind of idiot thinks like that? We, as a collective, are moving forward as a people in a country that's been on our necks for 400 years. And we're going to get mad at some fraction of our organization or our people as
your argument doesn't work. It's hypergamy. That doesn't work. Because of hypergamy, that argument does not exist. Women want equal to or better. Not men will date or go lower, but and equal to and higher.
Wait. So are we talking about dating or are we talking about success as a people?
It does matter. What you make, how much you make, does matter to women. You can't tell me it doesn't matter.
Wait, are we talking politics or are we talking love line? I don't care about who you date. I don't care about dating.
About how politics can split our families, how it splits the family.
Son, politics and the government have split our families. We think welfare restrictions took the Black man out the home in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. That's how they destroyed the Black family with free money. I'm here to tell you, we cannot bite that hook. Yes, I have young brothers who I mentor say, it just seems like, look, the government's not stupid. I want a contract. I got to hire minorities. Oh, she's a disabled vet, Black woman. She checks 4 boxes. Check. He's a Black man who's healthy. He gets 1 box. I'm hiring her because they want the contract. Okay, that's business.
What I'm trying to do is answer the question with why I think let me tell you now, I have 6 technicians that are below the age of 30 right now that work for me. And unfortunately, as an entrepreneur, you are not just a boss. You're a psychologist, you're an HR rep, you're a counselor. I mean, I know the drama. And a lot of these men are just struggling to just keep the attention and keep their women happy. The expectation that these women have on these men nowadays are equal to what they're able to accomplish. And unfortunately, it's not the same. And that's where their frustration comes in. They're trying hard. They're doing everything they can, but they can't keep up. They can't keep up with the vacations. They can't keep up with the damn TikToks or the Instagrams. They can't keep up. And that's why they're tired and they're frustrated. I'm just saying.
But it sounds like the issue is he didn't find a real partner that would work with him. Because one person may be more up than the other person. I mean, my wife, if I was still working My wife makes really good money now. And, you know, I don't have a problem with it. But the thing of it,
I wish I could meet Cinderella and live in the palace. I'd be all for it. I don't want to work I want to wake up and lay in the
but
bed.
the thing you gotta do as a man, even if your wife makes more money than you still gotta pay your share. You gotta take care of your kids. You can't expect her to come home and do everything. I know this dude, he was just tipping up all around with all the other women. I'm saying you got to be about that woman too, and you got to up front set realistic expectations for what you can do for her. And if she can't go with that, then move on.
There you go. Thank you. If you don't have a Lamborghini in a penthouse, I need. Okay, well, good luck to that. Okay, because I need anyway.
Where the generational disconnect is coming in right now, for the first time in history, there's more 30-year-old unmarried women than ever before. There's more 21-year-old male virgins than female virgins. That's the first time ever. Men they're called
incels.
They're called incels, involuntarily celibate. These guys don't want to be celibate. They're socially neutered. And what's happening is you don't see it. See, here's what's happening now. Let me tell you something. The 65-year-olds of the world, y'all are running the world. You're making all the fucking decisions. You're running and ruling. These 20-year-olds, 25, 30, you can't even hear them. You don't even see them. And I can hear it in what you're saying right now. You have no idea what the decisions that are being made by the 60, 65, 70-year-olds, how it's affecting and impacting the younger generations. And that's why they're frustrated.
You know, I take that as a kind of an escapism, because my personality and what I think about, I had to school my son on that. The very things that my son is talking about right now, he's 30. I'm the one he listened to in the house that laid the foundation for the ideas and stuff that he had when he was a little child. The things I exposed him to, the books I read, and what my family did. My son saw me working in the community. I was mentoring, the kids in the neighborhood and so forth. So, but he has for himself moved certain things farther along. He's more conscious about certain other things. But I had to let him know that I'm also true to the young person that I was when I was younger. I just have a better palette from which I understand things. But at the heart, I am still, very pro-Black, very much want the Black family restored and work hard. My son, he got married. I'm proud of him. And so I am, the things that I hear him say, and I'm almost sure that if the things that you're saying, your father probably laid the foundation that you have in you. You're not that far off. So it's not really a generational gap. Just don't get caught up with my skin, because I'm still a brother within. That's all I want.
All I'm saying is, why do children, okay, here's a good example. Why do children listen to their friends instead of their parents? Clearly, your parents have gave you housing, gave you money, raised you, sacrificed, gave up their lives, their social life. But why do kids leave the house and listen to their friends? It's the same thing.
You're trying to become the adult you want to be. So there's a separation that you have, that you do as a child to get away from your parents, to find yourself.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. And that's to be known. So, I used to tell people when I got 5 sons, and every one of y'all followed true to form. Between the ages of 11 and 17, I wanted to throw you out a window. Up to 11, y'all were the greatest guys. We partied, we laughed, we hung out, we played sports. Then somewhere you start smelling yourself and you start, I'm becoming a man. And I get that. It's normal. It has to happen. Okay. Knowing it was going to happen and watching it happen are two different things. I knew it was coming, but watching it, man, it was hard. And you got through it. Right. It's like a joke I tell people. And then just before you graduate and go to college, you become incredibly cool people that I want to hang out with and leave. That's normal. Okay, so your son is about, and he gets to that age, You're not gonna know him. He's not gonna be your little boy no more. He's starting to feel mannish, and he's going to change, and he's not going to listen to you. It's just the natural order of things. But I will say this for your generation, that we didn't have Instagram, we didn't have 24-hour news, we didn't have the internet, so we were not inundated day and night and day with the latest up. I can't imagine. It nauseates me how CNN has breaking news every minute. There's not that much going on in the world. Okay, breaking news is something happened 2 days ago. It's not breaking news. It's sensational news. So you're right. You said something. If you can't keep up with Instagram. Hell, the people on Instagram aren't keeping up with Instagram. Half of them are faking it. They're not at that hotel. They were walking by, went in, took some glam shots, and lying. Oh, I'm at the Taj Mahal with my friends staying at the presidential suite. It's all BS. And the bad thing is young folks tend to digest that as truth. They're not living the life that looks like they're living. Donald Trump is not a billionaire, but if you ask most people, oh, he's a billionaire. Dude, he's fighting to keep his legal fees paid. Billionaires don't fight that. They don't have those problems. So when I was a young man, we had gold diggers. Let me like crazy. You knew who they were and you knew what they were about and you moved on. I would never try to meet their expectations because as soon as I can't, they're gone. It's a waste of invested time and effort.
What you're saying is not wrong, but you can't ignore the facts that I'm bringing up. So it's just like this. I tell people all the time, this is why you don't talk about it. If you found out the person next to you made double what you made yesterday for doing the same thing, would you be upset? Most people will say, yeah. But
no, I'd be curious. Okay, that happened to me. And I said, wait a minute, how did you do that? I negotiated for this, that, and the other. And I go to my boss and say, hey, I need to negotiate because you're paying him twice what you're paying me for the same work. This makes no sense.
The point is,
give it to me or you're not.
The point I'm trying to make is that you being exposed to someone else's well-being changes the way you think and feel about what you should be receiving. Correct?
No.
You just admit to it.
Okay. Yes, in a sense. Yes, in a sense.
You would have never went back to negotiate if you didn't.
You're right. If I knew that was possible, it changes it.
Right there. Stop, because I'm trying to make a different point than that you're perfect and you're completely like just a perfect human being. I'm not trying to make that point. The point I'm trying to make is when you find out that someone else is getting more for the same amount of work, you look back and you say, wait, hold on, I need to renegotiate. So when you have, okay, so now I want Cinderella. She's right there. She likes me. I'm cool. But Joe Blow over here, my age, also likes her. But I look at her Instagram, right? And I see that I took her on a date we went to a steakhouse, Mike's. Okay. But this guy, somehow she's on Instagram at Ruth's Chris. Now I'm thinking, damn, I can't afford $100 steak. Look, what I'm doing now is I'm sitting back and I'm saying, well, shit, what do I got to do? Because I know she likes me, but she's over there. So now I rewind back. Now, fast forward. Now I've been a young man. I've been an older man. I have a few friends with boats. Let me tell you something that they all say. Every man with a boat will tell you, don't bring no young men on this boat. Flat out, you will never see young men on the boats. You see young women, but you don't see young men. Do you know why? Because the men on the boats had to earn the money to get the boats. The women just get invited. So what I'm trying to tell you is, just like the check analogy, is when you're looking at these women that you want, the women that you want to be with, you will compare yourself. You will compare and say, fuck, why can't I do that? Why don't I have these opportunities? Why can't I do this? They don't see the background. And all I'm saying, Dad, is it's not fair. It's not, everything isn't apples and oranges because everyone's checks are exposed now. So everyone can see what those girls are doing now. Does that make sense? So the men feel, although they may be right on par to where you were at your age, at that age, they feel like they're far from where they should be because they're comparing themselves with the top 1% and 2%, who, by the way, have lived 20 years longer. But you know who you don't see on these girls' Instagrams? The older men whose boats they're sitting on. You never see the men. You just see them on a boat with each other and water. You don't see the guys on the boat. You see what I'm saying? So what I'm saying is purview, it's perspective. I'm not saying that either one is wrong or right, but what I'm saying is why young men are mad. That's why they're mad. They think they're farther beyond, and all they see is young women excelling constantly. Then the women get in their 30s and wonder why these women in their 30s are depressed because they're not invited to the fucking boat parties no more. Because now they're equal to the 23-year-old men. No one wants an old woman on a boat. This is the way it is. A guy doesn't work his whole life to get the woman that he could have got. He works his whole life to go back and get the woman he couldn't get, which is a young, hot, sexy girl, woman, not girl, but woman.
Is that what's driving their politics?
I'm gonna tell you right now, I was on a boat with a senator last summer. I'm just telling you, it doesn't matter. Well, okay, let me see. Let me answer your question to be specific. You said, is that what's driving their politics?
Mm-hmm. That's what makes them want to vote for Trump.
I think that they incorrectly believe that by supporting and aligning with someone that looks like they think they want to be, that it betters their chances in becoming that, and it really doesn't. But I think it's just it's like a false narrative. It's a false hope. But I also think that a lot of men that, because I see, and I hate to I'm not aligning myself with them, but I do see a lot of men that want to be a part of a group, and they think that it's one thing, but it's really not. What I mean by that is, let's just say it, black men that want to be white, you know, the ones who don't associate themselves with, they don't date black women, right? Those guys. No matter what the fuck Trump says, they're going to support him because they're trying to find a way to be aligned with that group of guys. Does that make sense? They're not going to have in-depth knowledge. They're not going to have substance. They're not going to have real reasons to back him. They're just going to stand by him no matter what. It's like the Spanish guys that want to be white. They're always going to vote Republican because they think it makes them whiter. You can speak more clearly. You can speak slower. You can speak faster. You can try and become or sound more intelligent. That doesn't change the fact that you're a Spanish man or you're a black man. You're still Spanish and black. But I think that they think that if they vote for Trump, that makes them whiter and makes them feel like they're part of something that they want to become. I really do think that. I don't know how to say it.
But I question if that's new because I don't think that it is. I think that has always been out there. You know, as immigrants, particularly now, when immigrants come from certain countries, say like Azerbaijan or other parts of Eastern Europe, they come to this country and they don't know what race or ethnicity to put down when they fill out that application for citizenship. But what they do is they go to their embassy, and they ask the embassy ambassador, what have you, what should I put down as my ethnicity? Guess what that rep tells them? Put down white. And that's what's happening. And I don't know, but like I said, I don't think that's new. I think that the frustration that you described that young men are going through, I think that's been the case since humanity. I really do. I think that there's always been that dynamic between young men and older men, and the women they want or they're trying to get. But I agree with you that now it's more exposed because of social media.
We've never, when I was coming up, we were never as soft as these kids are now. We were never at work crying. I've seen guys crying behind racks, crying because their girl is with the neighbor. I mean, the stuff that I'm seeing is stuff that I've never. Let's just say this: those guys are a lot different than we are.
No, they did
a lot different than we are.
Men did cry. You just didn't see it. Men cried behind closed doors. It just wasn't. It wasn't on social media. I don't think men 45 and older. I'm not out there like that, but I can surely tell you that men who are now in their 40s and 50s and 60s, yeah, they cried. It just was not out there.
But I think also part of the problem, like I was listening to you talk about affordability, and pretty much for 20 years almost of your lifetime, from 2002 up to recently, the interest rate was artificially low, like under 3% or about 3%. And that people don't even realize that was like a stimulus that occurred that kind of kept being reauthorized or just kept going. So when you look at the historical interest rate, and this is housing affordability over the last like 50 years, it's actually about 7%. But everybody thinks it's going to come down to 3% again. The problem happened when you talk about housing. They didn't and young people being frustrated, young men and women, how they hadn't built like 4 million homes. They were short 4 million homes in the market, which helped exacerbate pushed up the cost of housing. All I'm saying is people lack understanding and context. Because when you talk about women working, right? It's a myth about women being in the home. Like almost immediately after World War II, like in the 50s, white women began, those women leaving the whatever, Beaver, Cleaver, or whatever, staying at home, they began to go back into the workforce slowly in the 50s, the 60s. So they weren't at home with the husband making that amount of money to take care of the whole family for very long. That was an idealized version, but if you go back and check history, that didn't happen long. So it sets us up for this dynamic where everybody think that they were going to be singularly taking care of their families. I mean, if you look at home affordability, most people are making need two incomes to buy the homes at the price that they are now.
Yeah, but it wasn't like that. It wasn't like that before. It wasn't like that 40 years ago. You didn't need it.
It was and it wasn't. You're correct. Houses were somewhat cheaper, but certain things have pushed them up. As families came on board and they can pay more, now the real estate market got two-income family looking for a house. Guess what's going to set the housing property, the housing market? They're looking now for two-income people to pay. So that's going to push up the cost of housing. So I think that with Kamala's idea to build more housing, because if you looked at housing after World War II, and I want to keep going back to that, builders only really built for a certain price point. The government had to get involved. That's why you ended up with so much public housing at that point, because the government had to get involved to build adequate homes for people that had returned from war and so forth, and the population growth that occurred because of the baby boom and all of those things. But we're not taught that in context. They have been diminishing the role of the government. And the government, if you looked at Bill Gates, when computers came on board, what computer did the government have? They had the IBM computer, which ran Microsoft. That's how Bill Gates got on, because everybody that was doing business with the government ended up buying the same computer. And my point is that speaking economically, a lot of things wouldn't have happened without the government's help, like home loans, which spurred the growth. The GI Bill, it sent so many men back to college, but it also made it possible for so many people to buy homes. So I'm just saying that we're not looking at things. We're looking at ourselves like we're failing. A lot of times people aren't failing. It's just a lot of the levers that was there, the things that took some of the pressure off you aren't working like they were for people.
I just think going back to like why young men are mad. I mean, if every girl you date, you don't have a chance with any girl you date, and they're constantly big boying you on every fucking thing you do, I don't care who you are, you're gonna be frustrated. I mean, you could compare it to the baby boomers and the roaring 20s. I don't know, but all I'm saying is I'm looking at these young kids and they seem like they're losing hope, and they just don't. They've given up on the traditional bullshit that they've been hearing every election. Nothing has changed. They don't want to listen to their parents. They don't want to do what their parents have done because they don't see their parents are doing anything that they want to be doing. So I don't personally buy into the same rhetoric or propaganda that you're sold every day. And like I said, I asked you what Kamala has done, and it got real silent. So
I was saying I hadn't gotten silent. I got cut off. I mean, firstly, like someone said, she's only the vice president, but in her capacity as vice president, she has um, worked to like uh, help the president with his agenda. She would go to the borders. She's gone around the world. She's met hundreds of world leaders. Now, what have they done directly to affect young people? They tried to pass, and this is financial. They tried to pass what is reform or remove debt, college debt from young people, and the Republicans thwarted that. They stopped them from relieving young people of debt, which is ironic because Donald Trump, as a Republican, he filed bankruptcy like 6 times. Do you know they stopped young people from being able to file bankruptcy to get from under the debt of going to college? So I mean, I think that they've done a whole lot of things. The chips, she not directly, but if you want to talk about Joe Biden, he did the CHIP Act, which you had people in that were working jobs. When they were in Pennsylvania, they were doing a special of the people working in the plant. The white guys were talking about supporting Trump, but didn't even know that they were working because of Joe Biden funding that he passed in a bill that where they were building the chips, which he financed through the bill. So I'm just saying it's a lot of people not getting good information, white and black, and the government has tried. I think they have tried to help, but you know what? Young people like Jared said that it's not that many that have been swayed by Trump. For the most part, most young people are pretty much supporting and young black men are supporting the Democratic Party because overall, I can't see where the Republicans have ever worked to really advance the anything for black people.
The gentlemen, I want to thank you all.
Republicans freed slaves.
Oh, repeat that again,
Justin. But that was a different, hold on, that was a different Republican Party. So if you want to talk that, and you go back to history, nobody wants to hear history, but history lays the groundwork for the future. Whereas after 1940s and the 1960s up to the 80s, there was a slow switch from the Republican Party that was a more liberal party and to the Democrats who were the KKK back at that time, they switched with the Republican Party. The Democrats became a more liberal party, and the Republicans became the conservative Southerners. So Lincoln that's not Lincoln's party anymore. It is Strom Thurmond and Goldwater and Reagan's party. Different party, different people.
Yeah, that's true. There was a switch in the party. That was the Southern strategy that the GOP implemented in the 1940s and 50s, and which is how they got Dixiecrats into that's how they got Dixiecrats into the Republican Party, and the liberal Republicans in the North switched up to the Democratic Party. That's how we got where we are today in terms of the current Democratic Party and the current Republican Party. But gentlemen, I do want to thank you all for this conversation, and I would like to learn more, especially when it comes to young men, because I do want to repeat my concern about young men not being heard and how to address that, because I do think that if we do not address the plight of young men, their frustration, and how that drives their politics, I think that we're going to have a bigger issue in 10 years. So, gentlemen, Justin, thank you. Randall, thank you. Gerard, thank you so much for this conversation. I hope that you all will be willing to come back and to discuss the issues of black men in general again in the future.
Hey, can I ask a question? If you guys had to deliver a message to younger black men with regard to what to look for, either whether it be in policy, tradition, consistency? Like, what trends or what do you guys recommend the younger generation to look for with regard to consistency before? What should they pay attention to moving forward so that they can better make a stronger decision moving forward? Like, what are some things, trends that you've noticed over the years that kind of show, hey, this is who this person is, or this is what they stand for, or what are some things that you guys look for before you make your decisions, and how do you make your decision on who to follow or support in politics? Because we're not taught on how to do that, you know?
I think that's an excellent question, and I would
Jared,
say,
would you please go first?
I'm sorry.
I was saying, Jared, could you please answer that for him first? I'll follow up.
Yeah,
But he's a mute right now.
Dad, can you hear us?
So I would say this. I don't. It's just my approach as an independent. I'm independent for a reason. I don't believe either party has all the answers. I believe when the doors are closed and nobody's around, they laugh and talk and get along. But when the camera's on, they're enemies. You got to figure out what works best for you based on your faith and your beliefs. You're not the first young person I've heard talk about the Instagram girls and this dating. And listen, man, when I was a young guy, I was poor. Okay. In fact, my wife made more money than me when I met her, and she still dated me. And yes, there were a lot of big boy, big money people around, but I didn't date her for what I could do for her. I dated her for who she was. So you got to figure out what your values are. If you want the girl who values what you make, I promise you, it's not going to end well. But if your values say, I want somebody for a relationship that I want to be serious with, then find a serious woman, and she won't care about what you make. She'll care about who you are. With respect to your politics, what's your value? Again, do you care about yourself? Do you care about your community? Do you care about your people? And if you don't care about your people and your community, then find somebody who loves themselves and vote for them, because that's the kind of party you want to belong to. If you care about yourself, your future, your children's future, your community, look at the candidates whose values reflect your values. Look at the candidates whose votes and actions reflect your values. Doesn't matter if they're Democratic or Republican. Okay. I'm in the state of Maryland, and our former governor is running for Senate. But a lot of people who voted for him as a governor are not voting for him as a senator because of the abortion issue and the fact that it would give a Republican majority in the Senate, and it's going to be a problem. Values. Is he a bad person? They don't disapprove of him. They like him. But because of where he's going and what he's doing and what it'll do to their community, their values, their rights, they're not voting for him. We Black men, Black people, for always lumped into a category. Like, we all think alike. We all feel the same. And that just is exhausting. And at the beginning of this call, I said, we're discussing a problem that's not a real problem. If 2% more vote for Trump this year, it's not a big deal. The media has hyped this out of proportion. So yes, it's okay if you vote for Trump and you're Black and you're a man. If your values promote that, you have the right to do that. And I served in the military to keep that right in your hands. Nobody should be taking your rights away. But conversely, if you want the right to have control of your reproductive system as a woman, I think you should have that right too. So I'm leaning towards the party that's going to protect those rights for women. I'm not pro-abortion. I'm pro-rights. And I sure as heck as a man don't think I know better about what's better for a woman's body than her and her doctor. So guess what? I think men should get out of that argument and leave it where it was, between the woman and her doctor, and let them make the decision on what's best for her health care. So I would tell young Black men, vote your values, but sit down and think about what your values are and what they're based on. And please don't get them from Fox, MSNBC, or CNN, or Instagram, or TikTok, or the people you hang out at the gym. What's important to you? What do you value? If you focus on that and follow your heart and hopefully put God in the mix in whatever you're doing, I'm pretty sure you know what to do.
And Justin, I would add to that by saying, follow the money. So in that time, we had multiple sources of news that weren't under one umbrella. There weren't that many conglomerates. The Washington Post didn't endorse Kamala Harris because the owner of the Washington Post, who owns Amazon and SpaceX, decided we can't do that because it would hurt my business. Mm-hmm. Okay, so when you follow the money, like your dad said, in both parties, you're going to find some connections between both parties. Okay, but you can also find some things that going to make your skin crawl. Okay, but when you go deeper, and it's going to take some time because you got to find these sources. And like your dad said, don't rely on CNN, don't rely on MSNBC, don't rely on Fox. Question the Washington Post, question the New York Times, question the Wall Street Journal. Okay, start reading some foreign publications. Read the Financial Times, for example. But I agree with everything your dad said, but follow the money.
I just wanted to answer the same question. And here's the thing. I really honestly believe in the Constitution as an imperfect document as it is, but it was made to be corrected. And so this is why, for me, I'm kind of afraid not to vote. And that's why I probably ingest too much of this stuff. I mean, I don't sit and watch Fox News, but I clearly believe that I vote not just for myself, I vote for other people. Some things will affect me directly, and some things are short term, and some things are long term. So when I vote, I consider its impact. Like there are things that are going to benefit you immediately, like adjustment in taxes, or if you need the money for to buy the house. But then there's a long-term thing that I care about, like Social Security. I care about. I want reform of elections that take money out of them, so you won't have to be a billionaire and self-fund, and you won't have to raise money from collecting from individuals. I think that should be public funded to put people on the airways. Why can't we just have the airways available to politicians when we need during elections? So politicians won't have to spend time raising money and being compromised. So I'm just saying,
the people funding the puppets won't be in control.
When you vote, consider yourself and how your vote might help others, realizing that some things you're not going to realize in your lifetime. But you have kids that will also benefit from some of the things that you do now.
Well, on that, gentlemen, again, Justin, thank you. Randall, thank you. Gerard, thank you so much for this wonderful conversation. I can go on for many more hours, but we cannot do that. I hope to have you all again to discuss this more. I would love to make this something on a routine, regular basis if you're interested. Because I do think that the black voice, the black male voice, needs to be out there more. So again, thank you, gentlemen, and you have a great good afternoon.
Thank you, Sean. Appreciate it.
Take care, guys.